him. They want to kill him, and he'll have to see how to manage this period.
All right. Well, we have had Mohammed Val in the Iranian capital in Tehran for us. Ali Hashim, you have reported extensively from Iran, and we certainly appreciate your insight and analysis on this breaking news for us tonight. Thank you very much. You are watching Al Jazeera's continuing coverage of the conflict between the U.S., Israel, and Iran. I'm Riley Carlson, and here are the latest developments. Iran has named Mojtaba Khamenei to replace his father, the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, as the country's new supreme leader. There have been more explosions across Tehran, hours after Israeli and U.S. attacks on oil facilities caused toxic smoke across the Iranian capital. A 7th U.S. soldier is confirmed killed a day after President Trump paid tributes at a ceremony honoring soldiers who died in the conflict. And the Lebanese government says more than 500,000 people have been forcibly displaced as Israel continues to strike more southern towns. It's 22 GMT, and we have the latest developments in the conflict between the U.S., Israel, and Iran that has spread to large parts of the Middle East and is now threatening global fuel supplies. We have correspondents in Amman, here in Doha, in Washington, D.C., and in Tehran. But first, Iran has named Mojtaba Khamenei to replace the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei as the country's new supreme leader. The supreme leader is Iran's highest political and religious authority. So who is Mojtaba Khamenei? He is Ali Khamenei's second eldest son. The 56-year-old has been a powerful, behind-the-scenes figure in Iran, and while he has not held any formal position, he wields immense influence. He was a top aide to his father and is seen as a key gatekeeper to his office. He is said to have strong ties to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard. He served in the IRGC Habib Battalion in the 8-year war against Iraq. Now, the announcement was made as large crowds gathered across Iran on one of the most important religious nights of the year. This was the scene in Abadan in southern Iran. Crowds chanted in support of Mojtaba Khamenei. They said they were ready to serve him and to fight in the war. Crowds of pro-government supporters have been out on the streets across the country every night. Our correspondent Ali Hashim joins us live on set. So it was a big religious night in Iran, which I don't know if that played into the announcement or the timing of the announcement, but also some of his supporters. Is there probably concern be from the United States and Israel that this announcement would mobilize people behind a new supreme leader instead of the opposite, which is what they're hoping for with this military action?
Well, indeed, it was a religious night, and it's the Laylatul Qadr in the Islamic Shia sect. It's also the anniversary of the killing of Ali bin Abi Talib, who is the second most valued character in Shia Islam. So putting all these together give a kind of a symbolism to the choice. And they are trying to, the deep state, the system in Iran is trying to stress the symbolism of the choice of Mojtaba Khamenei as a son of the slain leader, the martyr, also the father of a daughter who was killed, the son and the husband. So all this trying to put it as part of Mojtaba Khamenei's legitimacy the moment he is ascending to power, not just a situation where he is just succeeding his father. Rather, he is taking this because he deserves it. So this is how they are portraying it and picturing it. Now, the fact is that at this moment, in the middle of the war, a new leader is being elected. This is a position of defiance from the Islamic Republic towards the United States. Given the fact President Trump said and repeated he's not going to accept but having a voice and a vote in this, it seems that he didn't. Now, the other side of the story is that the United States and Israel threatened to kill him.
Right, and they actually said that the next supreme leader, whoever that would be, would have a target on their back. Now that we know who it is, do we know what kind of security precautions the council will have taken or that the new supreme leader will be taking? Because that will be a big concern as this goes forward?
Well, given how he was elected, it seems that they've been taking a lot of precautions because the council, the Assembly of Experts, have never they didn't meet, and the way they elected him was a very complicated operation. Now we don't know what are the details, but they never met, and we heard of an Israeli. Actually, the Israelis spoke about them attempting on the Assembly of Experts while meeting in Qom and killing them all. Later on, we knew that didn't happen because the meeting was not physical. Now, the election of Khamenei will mean he will be under a lot of security precautions and measures. How this is going to happen, no one knows. We have not seen him for a long time. Actually, he is one of those shadow characters. We only heard of Mujtaba Khamenei.
Right.
We saw few pictures of Mujtaba Khamenei. Maybe the only video I saw for him was a couple of years ago when he was announcing an online lesson he gives, because he is a clerical teacher. He teaches in the seminary. So he was announcing that he's stopping his studies. So that's the only time I saw him speaking. Now it's going to be the first time we hear from him.
Right. And we'll go to Mohammed Val now, who is live for us in Tehran, because that is what people in Tehran are looking for. And Mohammed, I'm also wondering, because we're starting to hear reaction from at least parts of the institution in Iran. Can you bring us up to speed with what we're hearing?
Yeah, that's right. The first institution, and probably one of the most important, is the Iranian Islamic Revolutionary Guard. They have issued a statement about it, saying that they are behind this election and they are going to fight and go in the footsteps and in the path that has been set for Iran by the late Supreme Leader, and also by the Supreme Leader who ruled the country before him, Imam Khomeini. So that's very reassuring for Iran here, that for the Iranians who are on this side of the political spectrum, that the institutions that matter, that have the weapons, that have the numbers and so on, and the political clout in the country, have already talked about supporting this election. Also, other institutions are mentioned in the social media and so on. We have to reconfirm that, but it's very clearly the most of all Iran that has been behind the late Supreme Leader is going to stand apparently behind the new Supreme Leader. Also, those gatherings tonight, and it is very interesting, by the way, this coincidence between what they call the Night of Destiny and the drawing of the new phase of Iran's destiny. The Night of Destiny, the 19th of Ramadan for the Shia, is the first of 3 nights of destiny. And this is the night they chose around midnight to announce a decision that is going to shape the destiny of Iran, at least for the next few days, weeks, or months, or years. We don't know about that, because we know that this new Supreme Leader has been threatened by the Israelis and the Americans to kill him. So we don't know how much he will survive, how long he will survive, I mean. But it is very interesting that there is a show of support across the country by those who matter, by those who have the clout and the politics and the weapons and so on behind him. And that's a good message for the Iranians at this particular moment, because the crucial thing for Iran now, the requirement, is unity, national unity. And that's something that is going to help them probably move forward in this war and protect the country.
Okay, Mohammed, and I also wonder, as you are starting to hear things from people who are in Iran, are we starting to get reaction from people who are not part of the institution, just everyday people in Iran?
I think it's going to take time, because it's way after midnight now. It is not the time that we can really tell you a lot about what people are thinking. But we're also, the blackout of social media, internet and so on, is playing a role in not really knowing what everybody thinks about it. We are beginning to hear the voices of those who support this election in the streets of Tehran. And we have even already heard some of that. And also those gatherings, those religious gatherings for the Night of Destiny, expression of support for this. but it is going to take probably time, maybe 24 hours, maybe early tomorrow we will hear more from people who might be against it. But as I said before, this is not the time in Iran to show the opposition to what's going on, not because people are afraid to be arrested and so on, but it is a time when Iranians feel that it's not appropriate for them now to oppose the authority that is leading this war when the enemy is at the gates of the country.
Okay, Mohammed Val for us in Tehran. Thank you very much. I want to bring in our guest now. Barbara Salvin is a distinguished fellow at the Stimson Center, and she is joining us from Washington, D.C. Barbara, thank you very much for joining us for this breaking news. I just first off want to get your impressions of the of Mojtaba Khamenei for the new supreme leader of Iran.
Sure. Thanks for having me. And it's Slavin, by the way, Barbara Slavin.
My apologies. Thank you very much.
That's okay. It's a crazy day. It's a real finger in the eye to Donald Trump, who explicitly said he didn't want Mojtaba Khamenei. You know, it makes the whole U.S. Project, the whole U.S.-Israeli war, even more senseless. To kill Ayatollah Khamenei and then simply get his son in his place, somebody who's going to be furious, of course, at the murder of his father, his mother, his wife, and one of his children in the Israeli strike. You know, and here we had Mojtaba. And, you know, we said that that obviously it was controversial because it would look too much like a monarchy and hereditary succession. But Mojtaba has the necessary connections with the IRGC and the paramilitary Basij, as well as insight into his father's vast financial resources. So probably, I mean, Mojtaba has essentially been ruling with his father, who was 86. The existential threat that the Islamic Republic faces, it seems quite logical that they would put Mojtaba there because he knows everyone and everything. And will not need to have a learning curve in order to fulfill this job. Of course, he will be controversial because he is associated with repression. In fact, we noted back in 2019 that he was rumored to have played a major role in orchestrating the fraudulent re-election of Mahmoud Ahmadinejad for president in 2009 during the Green Movement. So he will not be a popular choice. He is not by any means someone who seems likely to bring more human rights and democracy to Iran. That said, he's 56, so he will be different from his father, assuming he survives, and that he now has a target on his back. I think the Israelis have made that very clear. But he is a younger generation and therefore will bring something different to the role.
Barbara, I wonder how it will be received in America by Americans, if they will see it as you do, as sort of, we've been doing this for a week now and we've got pretty much the same thing.
Yeah, I think it's going to increase the sense in the United States that this war was a mistake, a tremendous mistake. We now have, 7 dead Americans, over 1,000 others killed, mostly in Iran, but also some in Israel and in the GCC states. Enormous economic dislocation, the price of oil skyrocketing, massive destruction of infrastructure. For what? To get Mojtaba Khamenei as Iran's supreme leader. Okay.
All right, Barbara Slavin, thank you very much for your time and your insight and for joining us here on Al Jazeera. Let's bring in Ali Hashim again, who joins me now on the desk. Ali, I wonder your reaction to what Barbara was saying, that how the optics of this may play in the United States as the administration is continuing to try to hone its message to Americans and try to garner support for this military conflict, how this might play.
Well, you know, this is a two-sided game. It's not one-sided. It's not just President Trump who runs the show. So there's another side, and the other side is the Iranians. And they seem to be defiant, and they seem to be insisting on not surrendering. And this is what President Trump wants. He wants them to surrender. So the only thing that they are showing is that they're not surrendering. So the fact that these are all issues that will really provoked President Trump to heighten his own pressure on the Iranian government. We are going to see a new phase in this war. Probably from tomorrow on, we will see more attacks, and they will be looking for Khamenei to kill him, the new Khamenei. Now, they killed a Khamenei in his 86. Now they have another copy of Khamenei in his 56, 30 years younger.
Right. And I wonder how you think this is going to, what the reaction is going to be from Iran's neighbors in the Gulf about this. Because if he does take the helm as supreme leader and he does, as you say, take a defiant stance, take a hardline stance, especially when it comes to the military conflict we're seeing, surely the Gulf neighbors will also have some concern about that.
Well, absolutely. The Gulf neighbors already have concerns. What's been happening now, regardless of them not announcing that they are in a situation of war with Iran, but it's a de facto war situation, whereas they are being hit by Iranian drones and missiles on daily basis. The Iranians say that they are launching rockets and drones towards American interests, but these rockets and drones are hitting the lands of these countries. So they're already in a situation of hostility with Iran. The way they are going to receive Mushtaba's election or selection, I think it's going to be with a lot of concern on one side, and at the same time, they'll be watching. They'll be watching. Maybe he'll come with something new. Maybe he will surprise them, opening towards the region. But it's not the right time because this is war.
These are all things we will have to wait and see. All right, let's bring in Heidi Jo Castro now, who is live for us in Washington, D.C. And Heidi, we were talking there with our guest about how the Trump administration might be reacting to this. Do we have any idea how that may go?
It's interesting that President Trump has not put out a statement yet directly in response to the announcement of Mujtaba Khamenei as the Iranian's new supreme leader. But we do know just earlier, about a few hours ago, he did tell ABC News that whoever this new leader is, if it's selected without Trump's own approval, that this person would not last for long. But of course, Mujtaba Khamenei has been at the top of the list for potential successors to the supreme leader's position. And Trump last week told Axios that he did not consider Mujtaba Khamenei as someone who was competent. He called him a lightweight and said that his selection would be unacceptable. A lot of words in a way to try to threaten his way into getting the leadership that he wanted in Iran. But as many critics and analysts had pointed out, without any U.S. boots on the ground in Iran, there was almost zero influence that the U.S. president would be able to have over who becomes this new leader. So now we're still waiting for a response directly from the president. We're also waiting for other members of his administration. It seems that people are all waiting for Trump to weigh in first. And just as our guest said earlier, the fact that now to have had 7 U.S. service members killed in this war that's lasted only a little over a week, and for the outcome of this, which Trump initially said would be regime change, in which he asked the Iranian people to rise up and seize the moment, he said, for that moment to now result in the son of the former supreme leader who was assassinated to now take over, this is not the scenario that the Trump administration had wanted.
All right, Heidi Jo Castro in Washington. Let's bring Mohammed Val back in, who's in the Iranian capital for us. So, Mohammed, we understand that all of this is happening not just because the supreme leader is being announced, and as Ali Hashim has been telling us, he's coming in obviously as the supreme leader of the entire institution and will now be the commander of what Iran does in this war. But I also wonder, Ali, if you could tell us, or sorry, Mohammed, if you could tell us a bit about what is happening in Iran tonight and what the background of all of this is in Iran.
Yeah, really what's happening now is more messages of support for the election of the new supreme leader. We have heard already from the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, and now we have heard just a while ago from the armed forces. And that means the armed forces with its several components, including the Basij. Those are the paramilitary, hundreds of thousands of people. the armed forces has announced its support to the election of Mujtaba Khamenei as the new supreme leader of the country. That's very crucial. We have also the Supreme National Security Council led by Ali Larijani. Ali Larijani on the phone, talked to the media here, the Iranian national media, about his support and the support of his council for this appointment. So again, this is what matters for Iranians tonight, for the revolutionary structures to be back on track, just as intact as they were before the beginning of this war and the assassination of the late supreme leader. I am sure that this is a very negative message for the Americans and the Israelis, something they didn't want maybe to hear, because they were betting, according to Iranians here, Americans and Israelis were betting on the disintegration of Iran politically, of the revolutionary structures, immediately because of the assassination of the late supreme leader. So that's not what's happening. Iranians are putting their act together again and announcing a supreme leader. And remember, the supreme leader is the guarantor of national unity. He's the head of the armed forces. He's the head of the political structures and so on. And he's the man who can make people who are divergent in views, who can talk to each of them and they listen to him, because that's the Shia ideology. One man is the central figure in the country and everybody is listening to him. He has the religious, the spiritual authority, and also the political clout, the political prerogative as per the constitution to unite the country. And this is what Iranians have been waiting for, regardless of what the opposition is thinking about. As I told you before, the Iranians in the opposition side, they are not expected to be loud right now and to talk about this. Maybe they will not show support, but they will not go into the streets to oppose this, because this is not the time for it. Iran is under bombardment and attacks and so on. Everybody is concerned for their security. And also there is that feeling that among Iranians, but that this is the time of a feeling of nationalism, that the enemy is on the gates and the country is under the risk of being invaded, dissected, divided, probably civil war and so on. So this is a very dangerous moment here in Iran. And you can hear right now, expected to hear only the voices of those who support this election.
And Mohammed, you know, we already know, and we've talked about the fact that Israel and the United States have said that whoever is the new supreme leader will be in their crosshairs, and they do plan on another assassination. I wonder, will people in Iran be waiting to hear from the American president? Will they also find it interesting that there has not been a comment made yet?
Well, Iranians might be waiting for any announcement for the Americans and Israelis, but they already know what the Americans and Israelis are going to say, because they have already said it. But I don't think the Iranians, or at least when I talk to Iranians, they're not much concerned about what the Americans are saying. And that's why the Iranians have taken their own decision to elect a leader who is not pleasing to the Americans and the Israelis. It's, as we said, it's an act of defiance. The Iranians are sending a message to the world that this is a sovereign nation that chooses its own leaders according to its own constitution and not according to diktats coming from others, even if the others are powerful nations, empires that are ruling the world and so on. Iran is just in the same manner they are defying militarily and striking back against the most powerful superpower in the world, are also politically making the same thing and taking decisions that please them, not please their enemy.
Let's go to Rory Challenge now, who joins us live from Amman. And Rory, I wonder, we already know that Israel was planning on, as they say, assassinating or taking out the successor of the supreme leader. Have we heard anything from them so far now that the successor has been named?
Well, of course, this news is going to be being analysed right now in Israel very closely indeed. I think what we're going to get is basically two linked but slightly separate approaches. The first is what Israel is going to be saying in public, and that is essentially that this doesn't really change anything at all. That the new leader of Iran is going to be a target just like the old leader of Iran was, and that he is going to be hunted. They are going to be looking for any opportunity that they can get to strike they'll be analyzing their comms, their information, their SIGINTs, all of these things that allow them to go after the previous supreme leader, Khamenei's father. They're going to be doing exactly the same for this new guy, and I think they're going to be pretty candid about that. They've telegraphed that already. Essentially, for the Israelis, they have a position that it doesn't matter about the personality, it doesn't matter about the man at the top. It's the system that they feel is an enemy of Israel, and that they will continue their policies against Iran as long as the Iranian leadership continues its policies against Israel. But beyond that, I think they'll be interested about who this new guy is and what his appointment as the supreme leader says about the status, about the stability of the regime. They'll be interested that he is the son of the former supreme leader, and that they'll be asking questions at the moment. What does this say? Does this mean that this is now moving into a dynasty? Does that suggest that the Islamic Revolution is portraying its kind of original tenets, that this was not a system that handed power from father to son? And if it is becoming that, does that mean that the system is decaying? Of course, since this war started last week, the Iranian system, the Iranian regime is now in full-on survival mode. It is fighting with every sinew for its durability. And if it is now moving into a dynastic situation, is that a suggestion that the cracks are starting to widen within the regime? That is the kind of thing that the Israelis are going to be looking at now. Of course, we don't have answers to those questions at the moment. The Israelis don't have answers to those questions at the moment, but they're certainly going to be asking them.
All right, Rory Challen's live for us in Amman. Rory, thank you very much. Now let's bring in Abbas Eslani, who is a senior research fellow at the Center for Middle East Strategic Studies. He is joining us from Tehran. Abbas, thank you very much for joining us. I wonder, first of all, what your reaction is to the appointment of the new supreme leader.
Well, this election is coming at a time of a conflict with the United States and Israel, and this makes it a bit more meaningful. And this somehow signals the continuity here in Iran, because many are interpreting his election as the continuation of the previous approach that Iran has had under his father. And they may call it as a rejuvenated version of his father. And this indicates that if you place it into the context, this somehow shows that the country is somehow prioritizing the security and the survival at this specific time, because the country needs to navigate through this challenging time that it is facing. There was a vacuum created as a result of the loss of the leader, meaning his father, that needed to be filled. But also he has not had a, let's say, official role in the government. This might be the question for many, but he was somehow involved previously in the developments that happened in the country. And maybe previously, if it was in the shadow, he is coming to the light and assuming the new role as the leader.
And Abbas, some of our guests have mentioned, and Rory was just talking about it just a moment ago before you joined us, that there was some concern that he may be the appointment for the next supreme leader because of the hereditary link with Ali Khamenei. And I wonder what your reaction to that is, and what you think the reaction of the Iranian people will be to that.
Normally, election of a leader didn't used to be part of a hereditary, let's say, system. But according, I think, to the context, maybe the system is moving toward a dynamic one, a new type of, let's say, succession. And we are at a time that, electing a new leader could be somehow very difficult and maybe those figures or candidates would not be many, and risking the situation, specifically at a time of an ongoing conflict, was difficult. And many were, asking for an election of a new leader who could be somehow functioning in a manner that can navigate the country through this challenging time. Maybe that's why, as I said earlier, the country, this indicates that wants to prioritize the survival and security to maybe, let's say, a political, reform. And somebody who was well familiar with, let's say, issues or connected to other institutions was the son of the late leader. So this is taking place. And I think this might raise some questions, but I think what we see in action, his approach, his policies, how he will lead the country in the longer term, this will be more important, and I think the public will pay more attention to this.
Ali, I want to pick up on that too, because we don't know exactly what that will be. We don't know what his policies will be. We don't know any of that because he has not been a prominent political figure or held a point in government, as Abbas alluded to and you alluded to before. He's been sort of a shadowy figure in the past. So I wonder if you could please, for our viewers, bring us up to speed on what we do know so far about Moshtaba Khamenei.
Well, what we know is he was so close to his father. He has this tendency, such as his father, with respect to the revolutionary vision. His position towards the United States is very hostile. His position towards Israel is the same. And now, in the middle of the war, and I was telling you, he's not just a new supreme leader. He's a supreme leader coming after his father, his mother, his wife, and his child were all killed together. So he is an avenger in a way or another. He's coming to avenge for the blood, and also at the time to lead the country at a time of war. So it's not really expected to see, except someone who is confronting. So he's a confronting leader and not a moderate leader, not a leader coming to open windows for diplomacy, at least for the moment. Yet, if this war comes to an end and Moshtaba Khamenei is still alive, and there is a window for, let me say, a settlement, Moshtaba Khamenei is well positioned to be able to take big decisions then and to bring Iran down the ladder in a way or another. In a way, no one will come and say that this is a traitor or this is giving up on our rights and dignity, because he was in the middle of this. He already have the baggage on his back, and he will be able to call the shots easily because he is in the right position for that.
Symbolically, it's a very big choice. Abbas, I wonder to you, for people who were wondering if an appointment of a new supreme leader would provide a diplomatic off-ramp here, or even just maybe not even a full off-ramp, but just a way to crack open the door a little bit. Is this the man to do it in your estimation?
I think for the country, that was a very significant issue to have somebody in this role who was well aware of the security, political, and lots of the aspects that is related to a leadership role. And from this perspective, he is the most well-suited person to assume the job. And this seems to be somehow, as Ali said earlier, is somehow